Os. Welcome UNLV students to the Shotokan Karate Studies program. By now you should know you've already warmed up, you've gotten the warm-up that you feel your body needs, you're adequate for starting the program this morning. So let's go ahead and get started with our typical, quick, general warm-up. Ready? And Hajime. Ichi. Ni. San. Yon. Go. Alright, warmed up good there. Let's turn to the side, bring our heels to our glutes. Good, alright. Let's go ahead and do some high knees as well. Get my workout recorded. Here we go. High knees. You can do this slow, just like I'm doing. Again, just bringing your knees up. You can do it fast if you feel like kind of bouncing a little bit, working your calves a little bit. Or if you want to go slow, go slow. And yame. All right, let's come up on our toes, stretching out our calves. And yame. Very good. All right, let's go ahead and do some body hip twists. And yame. Good. Arm up, across the side, stretching out our shoulder. Good, other side. Again, don't hold these too long. Just doing dynamic stretches here. Nothing too static, nothing being held for too long. Switching over. Other side. Good. Feet just widen shoulder width. Go down, touch the floor. Go to the right. Back to center. Go to the left. Back to center. All right, make that a little wider. We're gonna go down to the right, turning up on our left heel, stretching out our hamstring. Good, now we're gonna turn to the left in a long front stance. Pushing on the quad here, pushing the knee over the toe. And down to a runner stand, or a runner stretch. Good. Back up. All right, we're gonna do everything to the other side now. Leaning to the left onto the right heel. Toes pointed up. Stretching out your hamstring. All right, let's rotate that all the way around. Good front stance, long, deep, pushing on the quad, pushing the knee out over the toe, getting a good stretch. Transition that into a runner stretch. And come back to center, come back standing. Good. Turn around, fix your gi. Back to me. Yoi. Subirachi. Free. Yoi. Seiza. Dojo-kun. 一つ、人格完成に人を盛ること。一つ、誠の道を守ること。一つと力の精神を養うこと。一つ礼儀を重んずること。一つ景気の湯を戒めること。Ready? That's it. よい。すばらしい。Ready? よい。So today's class is an advanced class, and what we're doing today is the continuation of the class 3 of 3 for the kata Kanku show. Right? So in class 1 we learned the beginning, class 2 we kind of wrapped up the entire kata. Today we're going to go through the entire kata again. We're going to go through it by the numbers, right? So we'll take it slow. That way you can kind of follow along with me because I know that this is fresh in your mind, right? And then we're going to go through the bunkai, right? So I'm going to break down what each of these moves means, and it's kind of an emote bunkai, so it's we're not following it direct, right? We're not following it exactly to the letter, so maybe some of the techniques you'll see aren't going to be exactly the exact same movement, okay? For the most part it will be. And then you also have to think of kata as you're not taking on multiple attackers. You're kind of pulling points out of the kata to say, this is a good part of my life where someone's attacking me that I can use this portion of the kata. I can pull out this part of the kata and do this thing, right? So it's not that you're taking the entire kata and saying, okay, I'm going to now fight in kata, and I'm going to choose the kata Kankusho, and then you're going through an entire fight using only Kankusho, right? So you're learning the kata, and that's the whole point, is learning the kata. You're taking Kihon techniques and putting them into a form and performing that, right? It's getting you used to performing those techniques and putting them together in a specific way, in a specific pattern, right? So that you can then potentially apply them. And so Bunkai is going to break down that pattern and kind of say, well, this is a good way that you can interpret what you've just seen or what I'm showing you now, okay? So we're going to go through that as well. All right, probably won't be a very long class, not as long as normal, because we're just focusing on this one thing, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and do the kata Kankusho, all right? We're gonna go slow, and I'm gonna go by the numbers, okay? So remember, a lot of Kankusho is repeated patterns, right? We do a couple things more than once, and a couple things that you tend to do on each side. That's typical of most kata. So just keep all those things in mind when we go into the bunkai for this. All right, but for now, let's go ahead and go through the kata. All right, so again, I'll just break this down. We're going to go slow. I'll count this out for us. All right, so let's go through protocol together. Yoi, subarachi, right? Yoi. Announce kata, Kankusho. And we're starting off with our 3 Murata ukes. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, go. 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, go. 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, Ro, Sich, Hutch, Ich. Ni, Son, Shi, Go, Ro, Sich, Hutch, Ku, Ju, Hi, Ich, Ni, Son, Shi, Go, Ro, Sich, Hutch, Ku, Ju, Ich, Ni, Son, Shi, Go, Ro, Sich, Hutch, Ku, Ju. And Yamen. All right. Hopefully you felt pretty good about that. And hopefully you were able to follow along, right? Because again, you've taken the first class, you've taken the second class. Hopefully you studied that each one of those classes for at least a week, getting that pattern down, understanding how we're learning the kata. Okay. Coming into this class, you got it, right? Okay. Let's start breaking down some portions of this kata so that we can, again, for the Bunkai, right? So the first thing we do is we do these 3 Moroto Ukes, right? Now, my interpretation is not that they're 3 Moroto Ukes, right? So sure, it could be a Moroto Uke. So someone is throwing an Oizuki punch, right? It's coming this direction, it's from the right. I'm stepping out of the way and blocking it, okay? That makes sense if it's just one person, okay? You're obviously not doing this to 3 people, right? In the kata, you then go to this side and do the same thing. And then you go to the front, okay? In my opinion, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do it 3 times, right? You're not gonna use the same block on 3 different attackers. So, my interpretation of this is someone has grabbed my gi, my lapel, my shirt, my jacket, whatever it happens to be, all right? The move, right, is this, okay? So what I imagine that you're doing here at this point is grabbing and controlling, okay? So you're breaking their posture. So once they've grabbed here, you're grabbing the crook of their arm, okay? So how can you best? So if I've grabbed your lapel, this is where you're grabbing and pulling, okay? You want to break posture, so pull down, all right? That's a key part of this, because if you don't do that, if you don't pull them in close to you, you're just working against their strength for this strike to the side of the face, okay, or to the jawline, all right? That's what you're working against, and you want this to guide them and move them to throw them, right, to move them across. Again, once they've grabbed your lapel here, control and step and move, okay? Your leg, right, is that pivot point that they're going to then fall over, okay? So that's what you're doing here. And what we do in the kata, right, is we step back. We step into this back stance, right? Typically we go into a back stance to create distance, but for this, I want you to use it to break structure of your opponent. Okay, so once they've grabbed, right, they've grabbed a hold of my gi or my jacket here, they've grabbed a hold of it, and you grab here to break posture, you're at the same time move back. Okay, again, if I've grabbed you here and I'm holding on, you're grabbing here to number 1, break structure, that pulls me down, and stepping at the same time. Then you're stepping, then your foot is automatically behind this leg, right? Because again, they grabbed here. Whenever I trap their arm and pull, they're stepping in here, right? And then you strike over to the side. Looks like this. Looks like this. Okay? So even though it's not really a Moroto Uke, which it could be, right? Like I said, if someone is coming straight at you with a punch and you want to do this as a supported block and get out of the way of that attack, yes, sure, that makes perfect sense. But again, I'm looking at this as a self-defense technique where someone has grabbed my jacket or lapel, right? And you are grabbing the break structure as you step back and then strike, or just use your leverage because you're pulling, you're breaking structure to then push them and dump them across your leg. All right? And again, no reason to do it 3 times. The reason we do things multiple times in kata is to show that you're able to do it both on the left side and the right side. Because what do we do at the beginning, right? We go, we step this direction, and then we rotate to this direction. So again, someone grabs me on the other side, this side of my lapel. Break structure, step back, and dump them across the leg. It's just on the other side now, right? So we're on the left instead of the right. Okay? So again, that's typically in kata, that's why you do things more than once or in multiple directions, is to show or to become proficient in doing it on both sides. Regardless of where the attack comes from, you're still able to employ the same tactic. Okay? All right, the next thing you do after those is this punch. Okay? Now, this one can be interpreted several ways, so I'll try to show you a couple different ways that you can look at this one, okay? So, it is what it is. It's a punch, okay, and a strike, this way, right? So you've punched, but then also you're turning it right into a hammer fist strike in the face, right? So if I'm standing here, you're just punching and then striking. Punch to the chest, shoot on level, and then a strike to the side of the face. Okay? That's pretty self-explanatory. That makes the most sense in looking at it. As you observe it, that's just what it looks like. There, and then that strike. It can be a block, right? We've talked about this as well. Maybe you're punching, and then for some reason they decide to punch with that left, and you're just blocking. Sure, right? So you're intercepting, basically, is what's happening. So as they step in, like you see a punch coming, you punch, that punch still comes, and you're just blocking it to make sure it stays over there out of the way. Okay? That's another interpretation of exactly what happened. And you do this twice, right? You go one, and again, and then you just go with a straight punch. So again, you do it on both sides to show proficiency. Okay? So 2 different ways to look at it there. One, it's a punch and then that strike to the side of the face, or it's a punch as a punch is coming and then you turn it into a block. Okay? It can also be, so let's say you see the punch coming from the right. It's coming from this side. You go to push, intercept that shoulder. Right? So I'm coming in to punch you. You're intercepting this shoulder. So instead of a punch, it's more of an intercept. You're stopping that shoulder from coming forward. So you want to stop the shoulder, or you want to stop the shoulder before the elbow gets past it. Right? So you see that punch coming, stop the shoulder before the elbow gets past it, and then strike. So again, it looks like punch, strike, but it really is stop the punch, strike the face. Right? Again, there's multiple ways to look at this, and again, it's really going to depend on your school, your dojo, right? Your sensei. You know, I can go and look at Sensei Rick Houghton. I can look at David Gimberline. I can look at Andre and Bertel and see that they would interpret this in their own way. Everyone will interpret this in their own way. I'm trying to give you as many, trying to funnel those down, right? So everybody's kind of throwing what they think it is, and what comes out is what you feel best interprets that technique. Okay, so again, finding your own karate, but also giving you options. Just because you do this doesn't mean it's one thing all the time. Okay, just because you do this doesn't mean that someone else is wrong in their interpretation, right? Because in a situation, in a fight situation, you really don't know how that person is going to act or react to a particular technique that you're doing. So maybe you're having to come up with something on the fly, you're having to improvise, right? So whenever you see that punch, that right punch coming, and you block it and then strike them, that makes the most sense. As the punch is coming in from the left and you go to punch and then block that, that can also make sense. It can also just be that left is coming and you shoulder, you strike that shoulder. Right? So if I'm punching this way, right, and you strike the shoulder and then make sure that arm is out of the way. So again, it's a strike and then a block. So it's more of a palm heel. But again, it still follows the kata in that it's this movement, okay? And that's what I want to focus on the most today. It's this, the movement is there. I can show you what it looks like in the kata, and I can show you in a real situation what it's most likely there for. All right. So the next thing we do, the next big thing that we do, is after this punch, we turn to this grandiose, this flowery grab, right? It doesn't have to be that, right? Typically it's grandiose and flowery for competition to make it look wow, right? But for the most part, I want you to more think of it as if you were walking and someone grabbed your wrist, okay? Someone grabs my wrist and I turn to offset that, all right? I turn to trap them, right? So they've grabbed my wrist, and as I turn, I then trap that arm. Now what I want to do is turn their knuckles down and away from their body, like this, okay? They've reached out and they've grabbed my arm, and I turn this. Once you have this, you have control. And you kind of want this S shape in their arm, right? If they power out, they push out, they're gonna have strength that you're not gonna be able to break, okay? So don't try it, once they have that arm straightened out, you have to do something to get that S pattern back in there. You have to break that structure, okay? So, again, once they've grabbed the arm, you go to turn, you want to trap their hand. That's the point of this part, yeah? So they've grabbed my hand, or my wrist, trap their hand so they can't turn it or twist it, and then as you turn, either you push, you move in and push to create that S curve, right? Or you're pulling them towards you. So as they come forward, when they stop, that S curve is then created. So you have to get that S in there, okay? You have to get that breakdown of structure in their arm, right? It's typically going to happen, so I don't want you to think that as soon as somebody grabs and then you do this, that they're gonna tense and move up and move away, okay? Typically, if you're going to be fast enough that that turn comes and you do this, that structure is pretty much broken, okay? And then what happens next is pretty fast and very obvious, okay, in my opinion. The grab, turn, control the wrist, you have the arm, you have their hand trapped here, your hand on top of their wrist as you turn, bringing them down, and then the kick, right? So, do the punch here. So once this turn happens and you have control here, the kick is obvious, right? It's either gonna be a knee or a kick. And I've talked about this before, but I'm gonna touch on it again. There are no Jodan level kicks in kata, okay? But there are kicks to the head and the face. This is one of those situations, okay? Because as I've reached and grabbed your arm and you've turned and put me this to here, I'm not gonna be standing up here if you have control of my arm like that. And if you try this with an opponent, you'll see that typically they're gonna bend down to try to release the pressure and the stress on their arm and on their wrist. So they're gonna bend down, typically. Okay, what does that do? That opens them up for that Jodan level, not Jodan level, but for that kick, even though it's not Jodan level, it is to the face and to the head. Depending on their distance is where you're going to decide whether you're throwing a knee or a kick, right? So again, as you got them here and you pulled their body down, this is their arm, is broken structure. Their head is about right here, right in this area here. So a Shotokan level kick or knee is going to be to their face or their head. Here, either the knee, and then landing on it with that back fist across the back of their neck, an elbow to their back. All right. So again, let's look at the actual technique from the kata. It's this kick, and then there's this Shotokan uchi. Okay, that's the actual move. Again, from the side, it's here. Okay. So again, looking at it from a self-defense type situation, as someone has grabbed my arm and I go to control, it's going to either be a knee or a kick. So I can knee and then strike the side of their body as your opponent. I'm grabbing you, you're turning, control here, the kick or the knee, and then the arm, this, comes across right here. Or that elbow lands right there on my back. It's going to drop me to the ground. Okay. If they're still up, right? So if you've just thrown this part across their back here, it's that. And then you step back to create distance and double punch. Okay? Makes sense. There's no reason to have to explain that really much further than it's just still attacking that one opponent, right? So again, if they've grabbed, okay, you're coming around to get that control. You got them down, they're low. Either a knee or a kick. Knee, strike, push back, punch, punch. Okay? The uchi-uke that comes here, right? You do this. Okay? That uchi-uke can just be you pushing to create distance. Right? So after you've either struck here or elbow their back, you push off to create distance, punch, punch. Okay? That's a big portion of the kata. It's a big portion of the bunkai, and you do it more than once. So that's how I would typically go to explain that entire portion. And it is a big portion of the kata. So I don't want to pull away from that too much. I want to make sure you fully understand what that all is. Okay, because again, it's a big part of the kata. And it's because you do this big portion here. And it doesn't have to be big. Because once they've grabbed your arm, right, if you step and control down here, down low, great. Okay? You really have to work with an opponent, with an uke, to kind of understand how to best employ that, right? Just because they grab it, and you come up and around and down and make it big, okay? It's what works best. So once they've grabbed your arm, you've trapped and turned, okay? That's what makes the most sense, then that's what you go with. Right, they grab, pull, control, pull them down, then decide, are they close enough for a kick? No, so I'm going to throw a knee. Now, you've kicked their head up, you're dropping this. Okay, are you doing it with the elbow? Are you dropping this to this? Creating distance, and then the Nizuki punch. Okay? Alright. I can do that over and over and over. It's just a really great combination of techniques that just kind of flow. Alright, so let's go on to the next part. So after that, you turn for this double block. Right? This is a block, and this is a block. That's how I've explained it in the kata. But let's look at it more of this is a block, and this is a punch. Alright? Someone's coming, you're coming straight at me with a left hand punch, all right? This, I'm going to punch into their gut, into the soft part of their belly. This is a block. So that left punch is coming, block, and punch low. Yeah? Okay? So it doesn't have to be this, and then you come up and over here, right? As they punch, you're stepping in, blocking the punch. Move this arm wherever you feel it needs to move to block that. It doesn't have to be this structure here. Right? It doesn't have to be back here, the arm is back here. When that punch is coming in, and I know where it's going to, the target is my face, well, I'm going to move in, because I don't want to be where they're going to land, right? You always want to move off the X. So if this is the target, and the target moves over here, they're going to miss their target, yeah? If this is the target, you're moving in, blocking, striking at the same time. Now, this strike. So this doesn't have to be this gate on that comes back up here, and then this goes down to hikite, right? This is what we do. And then we repeat this pattern again, right? It can just be this block punch, and then a strike, right? You've punched them in the gut. Right? So as they come to throw this, you punch them in the stomach. It's an easy Shotokan to the face. Or, depending on how they turn their head, the strike down through here, right? So the punch comes in, block, strike. Okay? Control the arm. Remember, we do hikite hand here. And whenever the hikite typically is employed, it is control. So it's a draw hand, right? So when that punch comes, it's blocked as you strike, control, pull down, strike. Again, it's an Shotokan, or you're striking with the entire portion of your arm, the blade of your arm, to that open structure. Okay? Again, if I go to punch, you blocked it. As you punch me in the stomach, control the arm by pulling it down. Either my face is wide open for that Shotokan, or this is open for the strike. Alright? Hopefully that makes sense. It's pretty straightforward, in my opinion. Right? So, again, in the kata, it's done very slowly, right? So we do this double punch, and then we turn with this block. And then we do this, and we come up. And then we would go into that same thing again, which we've already talked about. So, again, if you look at this as this and that, okay, instead look at it as that punch is coming, block, punch, control, strike. All right? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so again, the next thing you do is go into the wrist grab, the kick, the Shotokan, turn again, same thing, right? So the next major thing that we do is this manji-uke, and then we do this sokomanzuki from Teki Shodan, right? So this, again, can be interpreted several different ways, because in Teki Shodan, all right, in the Teki katas, when you do this, it is a double punch. Now, I more look at it as this being this big swing. You probably can't see my punching bag there, but you can see this one, it's not down. But if you strike with this is a very powerful strike, right? I don't want you to negate the power of that, right? If you have a punching bag or something like that, you're able to strike with that just hammer. Now again, I know you're not going to be able to see this as well, but you can hear it. Okay? And that's just me doing this. It's a very powerful strike. So don't discount the power of that strike. All right? So what we're looking at here is someone coming at you from the side with a punch. The manji-uke becomes more of a block and strike, okay? Just like this. Except it's this. This is still a block over here. As the punch comes in, you are moving in, right? Reducing the distance between you and your opponent so that you can strike and block this punch or strike that's coming in, and then striking hard. Use that hammer to come in and strike your opponent. All right. So again, just like what we, and you do this on both sides, right? So you do this two sides to again show proficiency in doing it to the left or doing it to the right. There is no difference. You're not taking on two opponents. You're not, okay, it's not two different situations. It's the same thing in two directions, showing that you have proficiency whether you're moving to the left or moving to the right. Okay? So practice it on the left and the right. And so I say that, so I say practice it on the left and practice it on the right. You're going to be more proficient at one or the other. And it's not just because you're right-handed, you're going to be good at going to the right. You might be better at it going to the left because you're striking here, and this is a good solid move for you as you move and carry your weight to the left. Okay? So again, practice both sides. And even though maybe you tend to not employ it moving to the right, you do if you move to the left. And so when that situation arises, like, well, I'm really proficient at this, I'm about to take this guy's head off when I do this strike. Okay? It just makes more sense to you, so you move in that direction more often than you move to the right. All right, so again, let's look at your opponent. So your opponent's throwing a left or a right. Okay, so your opponent's throwing a left punch. The manji-uke blocks this, strikes them here, brings their head to you as you come with that hammer fist, okay, across the body. You can also use that second arm to kind of punch them in the gut and maybe take them down. Okay, so let's think about that. Right, so if they're coming from this direction, I'm standing here facing this direction, they're coming from here with a left punch. Okay, we can do this again on the right, but they're coming with that left punch. Stepping in, blocking, striking, control that arm, strike. Or instead of controlling the arm, you strike and punch their body at the same time. Remember, this is not this, it's this in the kata. All right, where your back arm, we'll call it your back arm, and this would be your front arm, right? So even when you go in this direction, you're turning your body. It's not this. You are turning your body. So this can be a punch at the same time that you're striking across their face. Same thing moving in this direction, right? Punching across their body, punching the face, punching the body. All right, so again, don't discount the power of this hammer fist. This can be two things. This can either be hikite and control, or it can be a strike. So, from the right side, same thing. You're standing here, you see that right punch coming. Okay? You're stepping in, blocking and striking, either control, or you strike, punch, strike, punch. Okay? Or does it make more sense to have control? Right? You see the right punch coming, manji-uke, which is the block, the punch, control, strike. You have their arm. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Alright, so that's how I would interpret that manji-uke and that sokomanzuki. Okay? Practice it with a partner. Okay? Alright, so the next thing you do, this involves bow. Alright, so let me grab my bow. I don't have my bow, do I? Yes, I do. Alright, so the next part involves a bow defense. Okay, so what you're doing here in the kata is you take this little side step. So you've done this sokomanzuki, then you open your hands and you take this little side step as you come to here. This is defense against the bow. Here, you have control, and you're turning it over. All right. Hopefully you can see that, right? When I said it, hopefully it made sense. All right. Your opponent is coming to strike you. All right. They're coming to strike you here. You blocked at the top and grabbed here at the bottom. Okay? And then you've wrapped, all right? When you wrap that around them, you're taking them to the ground. Okay? Hopefully you can see that. So as you're striking me, I am blocking control. Looks like this in the kata. And then I'm taking that bow up and around. All right? That's what that move is in the kata. And that's what it is in the bunkai. There's really not another way to really explain that part of it. All right? Again, as that bow is coming down, blocking and grabbing, and then control as you wrap it around and again control the bow. Okay? That makes sense. Yes? Okay? Because as your opponent, I don't want to hit this, but I'm striking down, you're blocked, control, and when you do that turn, it's going to put me on the floor probably, most likely. There's really nothing else I can do other than let go of the bow, and then you have my bow, and then you are going to beat me with it. So, probably going to put me on the ground. Okay? That's that section. It's really quick. It's really short. If you don't have a bow or a mop handle or a broom handle to practice it with, you probably don't really care too much about that section. But that is the bunkai for that. That is the explanation for the kihon technique that's done at that section. Okay? All right. The next thing you do is you do a jump turn, similar to MP, and land in a Shuto Uke, right? That, it's hard to explain without an uke, but your knees are going to be hitting your target, right in here, wherever you can. All right, so we've just done this. And the next thing we do is this jump turn, landing in this shuto. Okay, so your opponent is behind you. You see your opponent. Maybe they've grabbed you. Maybe they've grabbed your arm. And what you want to do is turn knees into their body, right? So they've grabbed you. You see them up over knee. And then the shuto comes to control their head and body. All right? So I want you to think about those knees coming into your opponent. It would be way better if I had an uke to show you this particular technique, but that's what it is. Okay, so someone's behind me. Okay, I see them. I can either grab their head, grab their shoulder, and as I turn and do this jump, it is knee, knee, control their body until they're right here in front of me. That's it, slow. Now again, as I come out around, knee, knee, and then control the body, right? Again, they come around, knee, knee, control the body. Whatever that happens to be with this hand, okay? That's the short and sweet of it, okay? There's really not much else to that. It is that MP jump. Right, it is that MP jump and Shuto Uke landing. And that's how I typically look at employing something like that. Now I've often said that jumps in kata are representative of throws because it is showing how you're able to use your leg muscles. Okay, this can be that as well, but I tend to look at this particular jump as those knees coming into your opponent. Okay, because it is a powerful thing. Right? Your legs are very powerful. And again, if you're able to make that jump work, and you can turn and knee, even just one knee, right? Even if you can't do the jump. Someone's there and you're just throwing that knee and then controlling their body and their head with your hand. That looks like Shuto Uke. Yeah, you see the back there? Control, knee, control to there. All right, so even if you can't do the jump, even if you don't want to do the jump, maybe all you need is that knee. That's enough for you. But again, this is just going back to explanation of techniques in the kata. I'm not saying this is something you have to do. I'm just giving you the explanation of the technique, all right, or my interpretation of the explanation. Okay, all right. So then you land Shuto. The next part you're familiar with from Heian Yanda. Shuto, come up to Koshigamai, block a punch that's coming, or control it. Right, as that punch is coming, you control it. Side kick. Come in with that elbow strike. Do the same thing on the right. Just like I've said before. What you do on the left, you're doing on the right to show competency and proficiency and being able to go in both directions. Right? So on the other side, someone is throwing a left-handed punch. So on this side, they're throwing a right-handed punch. You see it coming. You're kind of moving out of the way of it, making sure it's going to go behind you as this arm comes up to either block or control the hand. And then you kick. And then you slide this hand down to control the back of their head as you land that elbow. Here, control, kick, down, control the back of the head, elbow strike. Yeah? And you do it both directions. Again, you see the hand coming, you see the left hand coming, your hand goes up to control / block, kick, slide down the arm, control the head, elbow strike. Okay? We've seen that before in Heian Yanda. That's old news as far as the Bunkai is concerned, right? We've done that before, okay? That makes the most sense. It's very self-explanatory, very easy to understand what's happening there. It's very straightforward. From there, we do another, right? We've gone through this twice now. The grab, the control, the knee or the kick, the strike, create distance, punch, punch. At this point, you have that decision to make, right? It depends on what you're doing in the kata. Are you pointing up and doing the jump kick and down? Or are you just doing this quick kick, right? This tobi-geri, right? So again, if I'm here and I've done this double punch, it's a block, right? So someone's coming at me with a punch and I block it, maybe control the arm here, come around with either a knee to their body or maybe the side of the foot to the face, there, and then you're coming down and then you go into your shuto. Okay? In my opinion, that makes the most sense. Again, arm is straight out to block, block, control, tobi-geri, kick, okay? Or if you're looking at the big jump, it becomes I don't want to call it a flying kick, but like a jumping back kick is what that essentially becomes, right? Because as you point up and come around, it's a kick. You're kicking and then landing that kick. That's why you have that grandiose thing where you're then landing here and then coming back up into this low shuto, okay? It's this grandiose thing here that becomes kick and then down, all right? Your choice on what you want to do there, what makes the most sense, how athletic are you, how old are you? If you're doing this in your 40s like me, or you're doing this in your 20s, one of those might make a lot more sense than the other, okay? That's the bunkai for that section. You perform the kata how you want to perform the kata, okay? You perform the bunkai for the kata how you want to perform the bunkai for the kata, right? Typically you're not going to be asked, show me the bunkai for this, but if you are, be prepared to show options number one, or do it the way you're most comfortable. All right? If this makes the most sense as far as comfort, a block, a control, tobi-geri to the side of the face, perfect. Do it. Okay? All right. The next thing you do is you pop into that low shuto and then another shuto, okay? Okay? And then the end of the kata, right? This low shuto, someone's coming in this direction, you block, you punch, you repeat it on the other side. Why? proficiency, consistency, and moving both directions. So again, block, punch, someone's coming at you from this direction, block, maybe control, and punch, okay? That's the bunkai for the entire kata, right? As you approach the end, it's a little bit more clear as to what you're doing. Obviously, those last uchi-uke and oizuki punches, very clear what you're doing. It's just a block and a punch, right? There's no need to read into it any further than that or turn it into this something amazing. It's very straightforward in what it is, okay? It is old school block, punch, right? And it's with a turn, so there's a little bit more power with it, right? Because from the shuto, you see somebody coming in this direction, and instead of stepping here and blocking, right? So instead of just being that block and punch, very simple, right? Shuto uke, I could just step here. But instead we're doing this shuto, or this uchi-uke here, and then throwing the punch. Right? I've done this, and I see the punch coming, I can deflect and block. That makes just as much sense as shuto. See a punch coming, spin and block, and then punch. But which one has more power? Which block has more power? That spinning block has more power, right? This, I could step, parry and block, right? Or I can turn and throw that good hard block, maybe potentially control and punch. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I was not off screen too much. But again, here, power, block, control, punch. Okay? Again, like I said, those techniques are very simple. They're self-explanatory. When you do them in the kata, they make sense just being as simple as they are. It's a block and a punch. And then you're doing it on the other side to show proficiency and consistency and being able to move in both directions. Move the other direction, right? You move to the left, you can do it on the right. You move to the right, you can do it on the left. And that's typical of all kata. You're going to see that a lot. What I did on the left, I'm going to show you that I can do it on the right. So regardless of which way you attack me, I'm able to defend and counter. All right, and that's what you've done here essentially. Okay, so that's the bunkai. All right, hopefully everything makes sense to you for what we've done. All right, hopefully you can employ some of these techniques now that you know the kata, and you can get through this kata. Number one, you're proficient in being able to perform it. Number two, you're proficient in being able to explain the techniques that go along with the kata, which is the entire point of the class. Okay, so thank you all for joining me today. Let's come back to center. Yoi, subarachi, right, yo, seiza. All right, today's meditation, I want you to take any part of the kata and break it down into the bunkai format. All right, how would you protect yourself against an attacker using what we learned today? Right, mokuso. Mokuso yume, sensei yure. Tate. Yoi. Subarachi. Right. Yoi. Os. All right. Thank you, students, for joining me for this class, this series on the kata Kanku Sho, learning the kata and learning the Bunkai, and how to employ the techniques that we've learned throughout the kata. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next class. Os!